So Deeje, first of all, tell us what you do at Adobe.
Sure, I'm one of the co-creators of Adobe Media Player, and I now serve as the Internet TV Evangelist for all of Adobe, so I get to talk about all of our delivery and playback technologies like Flash Media Server, our Rights Management Server, and Adobe Media Player. We're seeing a tremendously positive response to the player and the opportunity that it creates. Content owners are really liking what they can do with it. We're seeing tremendous download rates from our download center. It's an option for a number of our other player technologies like Flash and Reader. So we're getting a very, very healthy download rate of the application. We're also getting some good usage stats coming back, so people are really liking using the application. And I'd say we're very much on track with our internal targets for distribution and usage for this year.
That's great. So tell us how people are, anecdotally, if you know, like how people are using it. Are they using on laptops and traveling? Are they creating collections? Or it's a little early, but tell us sort of some of the usability about the Adobe Media Player.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a laptop experience. People are finding their favorite shows either through our catalog or finding their favorite podcasts online on the web and adding those shows to Adobe Media Player. And then they're able to watch those shows if they're commuting up and down, say, the peninsula or taking a train to work, you know, here on the East Coast, whatever. And I think what a lot of people are finding is that there's some really good content out there that they would never find on traditional TV.
How can people sort of, you know, get onto the network, if you will, get onto the Adobe Media Player and to be a source? How can they do that sort of independently now?
Yeah, so there's actually two ways to talk about it. One is the fact that Adobe Media Player supports media RSS. So if you're doing podcasting today, your podcast likely plays in the Adobe Media Player. We support the MPEG-4 container formats and the H.264 codec, and most of the podcasts that we see out there are targeting those technologies. So it'll likely play in the Adobe Media Player, and anybody can manually add a media RSS feed to their instance of Adobe Media Player and start aggregating that show for themselves. To get listed in our catalog, it's a bit more work right now. Ultimately, we do support the notion of the long tail of content. We want as much content discoverable as possible around Flash and around Adobe Media Player. So we are working on ways to make it easier for individual content owners to get their content listed in our catalog, to make it easier for them to make their content be pulled into Adobe Media Player through a badge technology that, you know, I'm trying to work to get that, say, for you guys that you're interested in doing. So it is our goal long term to make it very easy for an individual creator to expose their content to the Adobe Media Player audience and get more of a dedicated audience through Adobe Media Player.
Let me ask you about the new Player 10. We're very interested in that. What's the advantages there? Tell us a little bit what we should be excited about.
There's a lot of great things in Player 10. A lot of the graphic capabilities and acceleration capabilities are very interesting. More support for measuring quality of service real time in the player, which will also lead to some even better streaming experiences online in coordination with future versions of Flash Media Server. So there's definitely a lot of great features in there. That this first labs release, just to kind of get it out there and allow people to play with it, I think it's really key. We're already getting some good feedback on it.
Isn't it important in a sense to have some sort of utility to share or see these Flash files from the Adobe Media Player in other platforms?
Absolutely, and I think what you're seeing at Adobe is that there are many teams working on various levels of the technology stack, right? So you've got Flash and Air at the runtime level, both in the browser and on the desktop. They're driving the Open Screen initiative, which is opening up the specs for our file formats and eliminating the licensing fees to implement our player technologies on other operating systems and other devices. And that's why we built on top of Air, why we built Adobe Media Player on top of Air, knowing that Air is going to go not just to Mac and Windows today, but we have a Linux build in the labs. Adobe Media Player will just run on that Linux build of Air when it's released without us having to recompile any of that code. And then as we move Adobe Media Air to other devices, Adobe Media Player can run on that as well. Also recognizing that we have Flash Lite today that can stream to mobile devices. And so we definitely are thinking about a multi-screen strategy, looking at ways to make Flash ubiquitous so content owners can reach their audience wherever they are, mobile, in the living room, at their den, on a train, so on.